All right, guys, welcome to the Conviction Fiction that challenges the narrative surrounding incarceration and celebrates the extraordinary journeys of those who have overcome adversity. Now, we don't use this platform as a way to say, like, whatever we did in life, that it didn't matter because they were victims, especially if you're a criminal. They were always victims, whether it was a business or a person or an establishment, it was always victims, right? So we don't try to overshadow them because at the end of the day, we are forever connected. Now, we believe that every individual, though, regardless of their past, possesses the potential for redemption and success. So, in this podcast, The Conviction Fiction, we delve into those inspiring stories of formerly incarcerated individuals who have transformed their lives and made a positive impact on their communities. From entrepreneurs and business leaders like you going to meet one tonight, to activists that you're going to meet one tonight, and community organizers, we explore their journeys, the challenges they faced, and the lessons they learned along the way. So we also discuss the systemic issues that contribute to incarceration and the importance of criminal justice reform. Our goal is to foster empathy, understanding, and a belief in the power of second chances. So join us every week as we break down stereotypes, and every now and then you might get a segment that we call short time. Short time is like a mini segment because normally what our podcast run like maybe an hour. But with the short time, it's like maybe 20, maybe 30 minutes, and we'll jump on with somebody real quick. So that's one of the added advantages of being on the river run or listening to the podcast. We give y'all some nuggets. You know what I'm saying? Just like out of the blue, just get a nugget. But we're here every week and we're going to challenge the misconceptions and celebrate the resilience and determination of individuals who have defied the odds. So together we can rewrite the narrative and create a more just and equitable society. So tonight we do have a special guest. I'm just going to look at it really quick here. Without any further ado, I want to bring on to our show, we have Eric McDaniel, guys. This is Eric McDaniel. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. Where's my sound engineer? Give him his round of applause. Because like I was telling him, Eric, just at the end of the day, man, there's always an incident that can bind a couple of people together. There's the incident.
Right.
And that incident, I mean, and I don't want to downplay it by saying incident. It was what it was. It was a crime, right? But at
No
the end of
doubt.
the day, we're definitely intertwined, and we want to let people know that even though that happened, there are some positive things that can come out of it. It's definitely life changing. All right, guys. So let me just go ahead and give my guy his formal introduction. Okay. So he's probably gonna get mad at me, but that's okay because he wasn't like really basketball friendly because I had him on my team, guys. But we delve here on the conviction to get into those lives of those people that survived and thrived against all odds. Today, we are honored to have as our guest Eric McDaniels, who is a living testament to the power of resilience and the enduring human spirit. Again, guys, don't take it short, man. This is like some real stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is very real because after serving a 15-year sentence, Eric returned to society and built a remarkable life. He's not only maintained a successful career in logistics, but has also become a devoted husband, father of four, and grandfather to five. Good Lord, Eric. That's a lot of kids.
No
That's a
doubt.
lot of
No
kids.
doubt.
That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids. So going back, Eric's journey doesn't end there because he's also dedicated himself to giving back to his community through his outreach program, New Beginnings. So today we're going to explore Eric's inspiring story, learn about some of the challenges that he's overcome because you got to come back. I'm just letting you know you got to come back
No problem.
because it's a growth process. And we're also going to discover the lessons he's learned along the way. So, for everyone that is joining the Conviction Fiction, I want you guys to please welcome my friend Eric McDaniels.
Pleased to be here.
All right, awesome, awesome. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it, man. I know, like was a little bit late. You know what I'm saying? I was a little bit late, but at the same time, I just wanted to like catch up a little bit. You got like 4 grandkids, bro. What the? I know you had kids before.
Right. Well, I have a biological daughter. My daughter, my wife has three, so that makes four.
Okay, awesome,
Yes.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're gonna get right into it. Some of the questions that we prepared, of course. The first question that I want to ask is like, can you tell us a bit, just a little bit, about your upbringing, just a little bit, and what led you to
Well,
the path that ultimately resulted in your incarceration?
I grew up in a normal family. I had a mother and a father. My father worked at Dunlop Tire. My mom worked. I had two younger brothers. Um, Basically, just being caught up in the culture. My dad left when I was 13. Mom and dad got a divorce, and hey, look here, them streets was calling. I was, I guess you would say, not infatuated with the culture, but it just became a part of my value system at that time. That's what I leaned towards a little bit, and really, I was throwing rocks at the prison. Uh, I hate to say it. It was once I got incarcerated, things were changing in my life before. Once I got incarcerated, I didn't view my incarceration as a suffering or injustice as much as I did a closer avenue for finding out who Eric was and a closer avenue with God. And so, and I knew that a lot of things had to change in my value system, what I valued. I had a daughter who I had custody of since she was 3 years old. When I got incarcerated, she was 10. So having to leave with a child and deal with the incarceration process was not an easy. And Doing my first went to Limestone, then Bullock, and then I went to Bibb County. I met this woman named Laura J. Murdoch who called me to her, and I wasn't about to get involved in no classes or anything. My mind was just really working on my case. But
Mm-hmm.
it really turned out to be a blessing because a lot of the information became a big part of the light clicking on to be able for me to be able to look at myself, to desire more of myself. I won't say that I grew up in a crime-stricken environment or home. It was just some bad choices that I was making.
Mm-hmm. All right. So with that being said, like, I know Laura J. I got a personal, um, definitely a relationship with her, even though she's not here anymore. I do have all those lessons, those same lessons that you got. I received them, and for a long time, and it actually changed the trajectory of my mind when it came to where I was and what I was put on earth to be, right?
Right.
Because a lot of people don't talk about purpose. Can you tell us something about purpose?
Well, purpose, your piece is in your purpose. Purpose is the defining essence of why we wake up every morning. It gives us hope, it gives us direction. Purpose allows us to be able to look past the clutter, and it helps us to be able to understand adversity. When one's walking in his purpose, he has meaning. For me, that was that's one of the great motivators in life. Why I do what I do.
Hmm.
And for a while, that purpose. So I look back over my childhood. A lot of my teachers, and when I was in grade school, would pull me to the front of the class and say, "You teach, you teach." And
Mm.
at that
Awesome.
time, I didn't know. When I got incarcerated, they were Mr. Murdoch said, "I want you to help out in the crime bill class when I graduated." So teaching, still
Mhm.
wasn't paying attention to purpose. I got out. And when I moved to North Carolina, I was just praying and asking God to lead me to new relationships and a greater understanding of purpose. I ran across these people and volunteered at this place called Neighbor to Neighbors in Raleigh, North Carolina. They do a lot of outreach. I met a
All
lot
right.
of great people,
All right.
and the
One
light
second.
really.
One second. One second. What was the name of that?
Okay,
What was the name of that outfit
it's
again? Because
it's
we
it's
want to give
called
them
Neighbor to Neighbor, Neighbor to
neighbor to
Neighbor in
neighbor.
Raleigh. hmm I had an opportunity to see people giving their time and their energy for the betterment of others. And I partook in helping mentor in a class called, it was a job program called Jobs for Life. And
Mm.
it was a really impactful program because it taught life skills, biblical skills, but it gave others direction, to want more, to understand purpose, to lead us and guide us in our purpose. And that was a
Awesome.
great thing.
Yeah.
And so when I moved back from Raleigh, North Carolina, back to Alabama, I knew what my purpose was here. I once said I'd never come back to Alabama, but never say never.
Yeah.
God had other plans.
Yeah.
And when I made it back to Alabama, I was blessed by this minister, Mayberry. Uh, she had a heart for outreach, and so she allowed me to be able to have a building to teach classes out of. So we wound up doing job training skills. I did GED, the 12-step program, which I just did it under the scope of life recovery for everybody in the community, whether it was grief, whether it was eating disorder, whether it was marital problems, or even drug addiction. We just used the steps for all those to fall upon the classification of those who just needing more, wanting more, and desiring more.
Yeah.
And so it
And
was a
that
blessed thing. Go ahead.
yeah, and that's important, man, because that's what what we try to do here is to make sure that even though you've done what you've done, the passion that surrounds you or your purpose. I think you put it great. Your purpose. Once you have that meaning, then you understand exactly what you need to be doing. Like I was on a
Right.
episode the other day, and I said to the listeners, I was like, if you are, incarcerated and you have no idea what you have lost, then more than likely you are going to be back in that same situation. If you don't recognize a sense of loss at any time when you were incarcerated, then you're probably going to end up back there to find what you lost.
Right. As Les Miles says the best way, he said you can't fall off the floor. And so
Mhm.
sometimes we have to understand that principle. But if you can look up, you can get up. The To break the stigma when I got back home, stigmas were there, jobs were there. Matter of fact, the first job I went to work at this plant,
All
and
right, and
I
we're gonna get
go,
in there. We're gonna get
okay,
into it
okay,
afterwards. We're
all
gonna
right,
get into afterwards. We're gonna get into afterwards.
okay.
But so we know, like, coming up you didn't have like those challenges like many people have. It wasn't, you didn't say cookie cutter, but you didn't also say that it was like crime stricken. Okay,
It
so
wasn't crime
uh,
stricken. Okay, go ahead.
mhm. But this
I
is
was
my
just sharing
question.
it.
This is my
Mhm,
question. You ended up there. You ended up in prison,
mhm,
and I
I
just
did.
wanted to know what were the most challenging aspects of your time in prison, and not more so than that. Like, how did you cope with like the isolation and the psychological toll while you were locked up?
A lot of prayer and the desire to make it home. That was the main thing for me. Yeah, it was very like being away from my daughter for one, being away from my family. That was tough. Being locked in a cage. As far as the living conditions, I did time in the military, so I knew how to function in those arenas. I was 30 years old, so I wasn't worried about the gangs, the drugs, and all of the prison politics. My mind was to make sure I did what I had to do to get back home. So a lot of prayer and a lot of reading, a lot of self help for me. Uh, at that stage, I had to really take a long look at what I'd allowed myself to become because, for me, getting incarcerated was a bad thing, but it was
Mm-hmm.
also an opportunity to halt a lot of ways. Like I said, my value system, a lot of ways I was thinking. Look back on a lot of when I say throwing rocks at the penitentiary, I was. Even
Okay,
though
so
my
that's
Go ahead.
that's my follow-up question. Were there any particular experiences or encounters in prison that significantly impacted your worldview? Can you like pinpoint particular experience or encounter that impacted your worldview or your plans for the future?
I would say, um,
Just one event, man, because it was a lot of stuff. I was there with you, bro. It was a lot of stuff that went down. Hey, guys, I would tell you some of the things. It'd probably be on one of those short time episodes. It probably would be on
yeah,
one of those short time episodes because, like, when you're in that environment, you see a lot of stuff. You can see a lot of
yeah,
stuff before it even happens. But like for
right.
Eric, my question for you, Eric, was like, was there one encounter that kind of like really shape shifted you, that kind of changed you?
They did a shakedown once. They brought the squad in. When they did the shakedown, they frisked me down. You know how they do. And a
Yeah.
guy, an officer, put a knife in my pocket, and
Wow.
he said, "You got." He said, "You got this. This is yours." And I'm looking at him, telling him, "No, that ain't mine." And he said, "I'm just letting you know I can have you whenever I want."
Wow. So like it was, I mean, I never experienced, I knew they did. I knew there was like cricket people there and they would sometimes use their power to remind you that like I could keep you here as long as I want. You need to do what you need to do. Sometimes the guards were as worse as some of the most heinous inmates. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Because they would,
right,
use their power and pull that stuff, especially for somebody that's trying to go home. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
that's interesting, bro. I didn't know that they planted a knife on you. Damn.
Put it in my
Dang.
pocket. Yeah,
Put it in your pocket. So what were your initial feelings? Like were you like scared? Like man,
I
come
wasn't
on, man.
scared. Yeah, it was just letting him know, no, it ain't happening like that. You put that in my pocket, and he was just letting me know. And it
Yeah.
worked out good because once I let him know, he was, I guess, joking or just wanted to see what time it was. But it worked out. It worked out good because it wasn't my night.
Awesome. Awesome. And guys, I want to thank you again for joining. We're talking with Eric McDaniels. And right now we're talking about the systemic injustices or the systemic things that happen within the prison system, as sometimes like you are put in a position wherein you will have to make a decision.
Right,
How focused are you on going home? How focused are you on going to the community that you left, or starting a new community and you're trying to make a difference? Because it can be tested, but after that, if you pass the test, right? And I have Eric on because I went through a lot of stuff, bro. Like I'm just gonna let you know we haven't spoken. It's been years since we actually spoken, but when I got home, got married, um after playing around for about maybe a year and got married, started having more children. And the first thing I did was I jumped in school. So if you are in prison right now, and if you have a phone, or you just got out of prison and you needed a haven, first thing you need to do is get your education up, right?
right,
Because these folks ain't playing out here. There's AI, there's Facebook, all these social media platforms. There are cars that can basically drive themselves. That was one of the things we used to joke about. Like by the time you get out, cars gonna be driving. They're gonna be flying by the time you get out. And
Right.
they're almost flying. So getting an education was like or formal education, as I like to term it, because I was always in school. You know what I'm saying? I always like was that kind of smart guy. I love computers, I love technology, I loved all that stuff. I just like the streets too. Um, so when I first got out, I jumped immediately into a school, and I ended up graduating, getting a great job, and it's been tough. So now we're going to focus on that post incarceration. Like now that you're out, you've got past that little officer that could probably would have ruined your life. I'm just gonna tell you, I don't know who that officer was, but he probably could have ruined your life. He knew it. He knew it. um we used to joke around a lot of times where we would say, well, they come in here because they have no control at home, because now they
Right.
can come in. You know about that, right? They don't have no control at home, so they're gonna come in here and just be mean, be bullies or whatever, instead of just doing their job and understanding, like, you know um there is power in second chances. Sometimes people make mistakes. I mean, I have known no individual besides Jesus that
Right.
never made a mistake. Right? You're not perfect. Don't come in here and act like you perfect. And that used to really get on me. That used to really get on me. You got a spotlight, bro.
Yeah. Getting out, I also furthered my education also. I was blessed to get into seminary school. I went to a satellite program from Stanford University at Beeson Divinity School, and that was a blessing. Um, 6 months after I was got out, I was in college, just doing good, working. Um, Matter of fact, April 27th, my birthday, I was diagnosed with cancer. So they said it was a slow growth. So I had cancer when I was in prison. I didn't feel like I had cancer, but I wound up having to have surgery, go through radiation and all of that, and still dealing with this world. Because when you get out, I did nearly 7 years, and when I got out, the world was moving. We had cell phones and email addresses and texts and a lot of things I hadn't even dealt with. I remember the first time going in the bank and there were no tellers. They were just these little phones. So I'm sitting up trying to look and see what everybody else doing, see what I needed to do. So yeah,
Exactly.
listen, the world had definitely changed. Everything, if you weren't computer literate, you need to be trying to be computer literate because everything was moving in that direction. As
Yeah.
opposed to
So
when I
so how did you
go ahead.
navigate that? How did you navigate that transition? How did you navigate the transition back into society after serving your sentence? I mean, were there
Well,
challenges that you faced?
there were challenges. When I first got out, I went to stay with my brother. My
Hmm.
brother was still in the game, so there I was back and not so healthy. And I thank God I had great family support while I was incarcerated, and so I was thrown. I went back into that same environment that I kind of left. So school gave me an opportunity. I got a job, and um, as a matter of fact, even going looking for a job, they saw that I just got out, didn't want to give me the job, and so I talked to the manager, and the manager sent me out there. This was a temp service,
Hmm.
and so I worked 2 weeks, and the plant manager walked up to me and said, "Hey, we buying your contract out. We're gonna hire you. We'll give you
Right.
operator's pay. So go back home." So I could see God's hand really moving. So there I was in school, and uh, everything was going good. Then I had to deal with the cancer aspect. Uh, my heart go out to anybody has to endure radiation because that was one of the hardest things I had to deal with. Still getting adjusted to being outside, yet still, I didn't mention that my baby brother passed while I was incarcerated about a
Yeah.
year and a half before I came home. And still having to deal with all that and then tell my family, hey, cancer. So really taking the time to calm them down as opposed to really dealing with it myself until I began my treatment. So everything really worked. I had some great doctors. Give God the glory first and foremost, and
Amen.
got through that process. And when they tell you it take 10 years to get your strength back, it really does. And so I guess if you set a mind frame, having dealt with life in general, and then dealing with incarceration and getting out, my whole thing was in the adjustment process. If others can do it, I could do it. And, there was time where I had to get on the keyboard and type papers and one finger at a time. Out here you just got to move. Same way when you're incarcerated. The norms in prison mentality is one thing, but for those who desire more for themselves, sometimes you got to move in some different directions.
I agree.
That was
I agree. I agree
and
because that's
yeah,
what's really important, man. It's like we were put in a situation where we had to move. We had to like
right,
stay on our toes. We were always aware. I mean, even when you were asleep, you were aware. So
right,
if your character at the end of the day, I'm not saying like just because we are on this podcast and we're doing what we're doing, that there are individuals that are out there that don't realize the importance of their life. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it
that
with you guys, man. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it with you because like it's some dudes, I'm just gonna tell you, they don't give a hoot
at
about who
all.
they are, what they're trying to do, and all that. But within that little realm, there are people that do care, that do recognize that they made a mistake, that they do understand that there's something bigger happening in this whole world, and they should be a part of it. Some people make mistakes. Now, I'm not like this. Is what the podcast is about, bro. I'm not trying to make sure that every uh, felon or ex-felon that I've known is on here to talk about like, oh yeah, it's messed up because we can get caught up in excuses all day, bro. We can get caught up in excuses. I don't do excuses. I've never done it. Lord J. Murdoch taught me about excuses, because they're just a crutch when you don't want to be accountable. When you're not
When you don't want to
accountable,
move.
you
Hmm.
when you don't want to move, when you don't want to be accountable for your actions, then you would use excuses as a crutch. Well, I grew up in this neighborhood, or my daddy wasn't there, or my mama, she was on drugs and all that stuff. But at some point, you get to become an adult, and then your life is now in your hands, and
Correct.
the direction that you want your life to go, that's totally on you now. It ain't on them. There are stories, countless stories, and we're going to try to have them on the podcast also. But there are countless stories of people that had the odds stacked against them. They didn't have this, they didn't have money, they didn't have shoes, they didn't have, a nice car to drive around in. They didn't have that, but somehow they overcame, right? They
Right.
overcame all of those challenges to become successful members. But um just for a minute, we're gonna talk like about new beginnings, because like I know that you got into the you end up getting the job, and now that you have the job, um what was the opportunities that you found to build a successful career? Because I know you kind of moved up within the company.
Like my thing is to not. Uh, that was my main thing. Coming in, having to stay with my brother, I want to. Yes, this word called economically viable,
Mm-hmm.
and that word played a big part with me when I looked that word up. And far as putting myself in a position to get back acclimated in a positive direction. Those were situations I had to stray away from and getting out and continue to
Of course,
maintain
of course.
that mind frame of wanting more, desiring more, but to understood that it was God's will for me to have more. And my message to anybody listening to the podcast, whether you're incarcerated or whatever, is that you matter. Your life matters. You were born with a purpose. That purpose was to have a prosperous life, to move forward regardless of your situation or circumstance. And so for me, uh, that drive to get back and put myself in a more positive situation to be able to flow out here, to not go back one, but at the same time, when I left the streets, I left a 10-year-old. When I come back, I got a 16-year-old. So that's
Mm,
another, I got to deal with a teenager. Went through that process of trying to make up for 7 years and all of that. And, those were big. I had to be daddy to say no in some places. With 7 years, daddy couldn't say no. 7 years I couldn't put a pencil in the back for the first day of school, paper or anything. And so that was a process. Uh,
yeah.
and so getting back out, that was on the forefront of me getting myself in a situation, because for those of us that have children, how we live our life determines our child's life.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. And so you ended up like being able to you know move up in your career and stuff, and then you found time to get associated with New Beginnings. Tell me how that came about.
New beginnings come about before I got incarcerated. I worked in the community. Did a lot of coaching, but also mentorship, and this program called the K to Youth Services. One motivation in getting involved with that is having a young daughter. She was young at the time. If I could reach others to help the generation grow in a positive direction, I felt like that would be able to help her also, and then keep her involved in things. Later, when New Beginnings started out, I guess more so than anybody on this podcast. I was
I don't
working
know,
in the
bro.
crime
I don't
bill,
know. I don't know.
working in the crime bill program, and doing a lot of teaching and self help. And I knew a lot of times people don't do better because they don't know better. A lot of times we need the information,
Yeah,
and a lot of the information. I mean, simple things like you know, that we learned by criminal thinking errors and a lot of things like that. That when I got out, I wanted to help. The second thing
Like,
was that I wanted all my
yeah. Hold
programs.
on, hold on.
Okay,
You brought me back then, bro. So
it was a
you brought me back. Like you brought me back. You said a criminal thinking era. Now,
yeah.
we're on this podcast right now. I know, like, cause I was inundated with all these criminal thinking areas, bro. Like for me, what is one criminal thinking era? I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna put you on the spot right here, bro.
Well, do that. I'm ready.
One
Uh,
one criminal thinking era that you remember and explain what it means.
Diverting attention away from self by using the relevant material. And, that's one that we can
Man,
talk. And when I see they
oh
divert the
man,
conversation, look away
see,
from
that's
themselves. It
my
was it was
God,
the it was the
that's
it
my
was the man that
God.
did it, or these people know without taking accountability. That's one we see a lot. That was one that it stands out every
Awesome,
day.
awesome, man. I appreciate you, like, cause, like, I'm like in life, and you're pretty much in life and stuff. But like when you have that memory to bring that up. Like people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you a psychologist? What are you
you
doing?
know,
You know what I'm saying? But like it actually helped us grow. It helped us grow.
in
And most of us
Dr.
were
Stan,
young, bro. Stan
we
Samuel.
were. No doubt, no doubt,
Stan
no doubt.
Samuel.
I read
Stan
both of those books.
Yeah. I got one. I don't know. I'm hold up. I got a spot like this. You might get mad. I don't even at this point, I really don't even care. Right. So I reached out to Dr. Stan Saminow when I was locked up. I was at a bed with you guys and stuff. I reached out to him because I was like, this is interesting. So I reached out to him. I sent him a letter, bro. And the next time you're on, or if you're in Atlanta, or if I'm in where you are in Decatur or whatever, I will bring this book, bro. I got a signed copy.
Really?
Yes, I got a signed copy. Yeah, I'm flexing my muscle right now. I got a signed copy of the Inside the Criminal Mind, bro. Inside the Criminal Mind that was written by Dr. Stan Samuel, bro. I reached out to her, and I reached out to him because Laura, she I'm gonna say it, Mama Murdoch. She told me, she was like, you like these books I see, like, and I was trying to get all the videos and all that stuff, and she was like, write him a letter, and I wrote him a letter, bro. I was like, man, I love your work, bro. You're actually changing and stuff, and he sent me Inside the Criminal Mind, bro. I got a signed copy, and I guard that
That's what's
thing
up.
with my life. I guard it with my life. It says to Antoine, keep your head up, keep working the program, keep doing what you're doing, because for you to come out and reach out for that, either you like extremely messed up or you're on the right path. You know what I mean? And I was like, this is it, man. This is it right here. Now,
It is.
going back to your family life, bro. We're gonna talk about your family life a little bit because I know like they have been, you have always had that support system around you. All right. So, damn, my mic failed. Um, during your incarceration, how did your family support um how did your family support you during your incarceration and after your release?
During my incarceration, hey man, I had support. They were really there. Visits wherever I was at, they made sure they came, made sure I had some on the book. Um, and more so than anything, they have rallied around and gave my daughter a good support system,
Right.
which was very important. So that was seeing the love, seeing uh, them come together for me. That was a greater, it wasn't the first thing. One, I had to do it for myself, but I also wanted to show them gratitude and do what I need to do to get back home because they were, sending money on the road every other weekend to come see me. That was a blessed thing. Once I got out, family was still there. Is my transition is you can
Yeah.
go and read all these books and you can
Yeah, because that
work
was
do
my
a lot
next
of
question.
self help programs and all this. And then when you get back out, you see it have a greater desire to share some of this information and hey,
Yeah.
and everybody else working on their own thing. So it was like it didn't cause problems. I just had to really understand when you're away from people and people die. Like I said, I lost my brother and a lot of other family members. And when you get out after being away and seeing so many Christmases pass by and
Oh.
birthdays and Mother's Days, and when you get out, you don't take that stuff for granted. So you really want to just embrace everybody and love everybody.
Mhm.
But at the same time, everybody else may be on their own stuff.
Yeah, I agree, bro. And that's why I wanted to have you on here, because when I started the podcast, I was doing some other stuff. I had some episodes out, and that was just basically a test run for what my purpose was. And
Hmm.
now that we're here, it's important because the family role, they play a big part in, if you have that, let's
Right,
just be honest. Some people don't have that, you know what I
right.
mean? And you have to find your own family. There are like aunts and uncles or even counselors, that people that actually believe in you. You know what I'm saying? So what would you say to those folks that don't have like that support group? Like, how would they seek that support, or what should they do in order to get support?
Figure out what you want to do and reach out to those people. What you assemble is what you'll resemble, whether it be behind the wall or out here. But you assemble is what you resemble. Me, I had, God bless me with some great people. I had a guy named James Blackman. He was a retired professor at Alabama A&M. So he just took a liking to me and took me up on his wing. So,
Hmm.
he was influential where I could talk man to man. But the beautiful thing about him is he was a pusher.
Hmm.
When I say pusher, you would get the information, but it was up to you to do the work. And so that phrase I'm using, what you assemble is what you resemble. I had to kind of, you know, build a network of where I wanted to go rather than where I was. Uh,
Hmm.
just getting out, working, going to school, and which was a great thing. But that was also a transition from you know being incarcerated to moving in a newness out here that it wasn't interfering. It's just that I just wanted to get to a place where I could uh, build, put myself in a situation where I could build and see where I'm moving forward. So my network
Awesome.
was small. My network is still small now. Me dealing with Eric every day is a 24-hour job. Uh, uh, Dealing with the outreach, you asked that question earlier. The passion of wanting to help others, because there were others that sold into me. There were others that gave unto me, that gave me their time and their energy to help point me in the right direction. So, the biblical principle was freely you give, freely you receive, freely you give. And so, far as starting the Jobs for Life program, that was good. We had a lot of people come through class and wind up getting jobs and things. And I wound up having a class of 15 Jamaicans,
Wow.
and they didn't know much about. They wanted to get their GED, so we wound up doing the GED. And I had others. All my programs are free, um, no assistance from anybody, and God always made a way. And so that's how the GED program had gotten started, and 12-step program got started after that. Because, of course, I went through
Yeah.
with teaching that for 3 years. I saw the need. And one of the things about working on yourself, a lot of times in them programs, even though there were students, I really was talking to me the whole time. So that helped me stay on top of my game as far as being able to think and not succumb to what I saw around me. Uh, Not in a judgmental way, but just knowing what my purpose and the vision that I had for my life. Um, you know, I'm a big person to say you got to move. Being a kingdom citizen. One of the great things about that is God's given us everything we need, but you have to move. Faith is an action word, and so there's life out here to live in, man. We live in, a country where you can not have nothing in 30 days, have something. Being in the military, I know that there's some places in the world that 3 years you still may not have. So
Yeah.
there are opportunities for my brothers getting out, but you got to move, and you got to have a goal. And
Mhm.
in that goal, you got to be dedicated. And so that doesn't mean that I don't have challenges or life problems or situations. I told you about the cancer and some other things, even a divorce in the process. But, one of the greatest things that I uh, understood in dealing with myself through a lot of them classes and a lot of books I read was a greater love for myself. And so that was very impactful for me because I love me some Eric, and so I feel like to put myself in a position to win was of utmost importance, and that would be my message to other brothers. Look, make uses of your resources, but the greatest thing you can do is renew your mind. Uh, if you want something different, you got to do something different. But most of all, you got to think different because I was my biggest problem in the world. Even
Yeah.
today, I have to contend with me. It's not other people. It's not the world. It's not racism. It's not uh, being an ex-felon. It's none of those things because all of those things may have labels and titles in this world, but it's what I feel about me that's the most impactful thing. How I feel about me, and like you said, everybody can have an excuse in this world. We learned it. Excuses are tools of incompetence to be a mountains of nothing. But was I gonna get up? Was I gonna get up and move, regardless of the obstacle? Was I gonna get up and move? Was I gonna desire more out of myself? So those are things, and it's a life to be lived, man. One of the greatest tragedies, man, ain't death, but a life not lived. And so when that gate opened, I made sure that I was gonna do what I need to do to live and to love myself.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest things. One has to really ask yourself: Is this? Am I loving myself here? Because see, I wasted a lot of time, um, a lot of time, from things that wasn't putting me in the greatest position. I was wasting time, and I really wasn't
Mm.
loving myself. And so it doesn't matter your situation, whether you're
It,
incarcerated
it
or whatever you're doing. Go
it
ahead.
doesn't. It doesn't, and that's what we try to bring here. Like, so for when you were talking about the organizations that you've met with, like, of course the links are going to be posted, but share that with them, because I would love to have them on, some of the individuals that have went through your programs, some of the individuals that are going
Sure.
through the same stuff, to in order to grow this movement. I mean, my thing about the conviction fiction is that just because you were convicted of a crime, whether you either copped out for it or you were found guilty, at the end of the day, that is not the end of your story. That's
No,
not the
no,
end of your story. And so,
no.
like, for those people that you have worked with over the years with New Beginnings and working in North Carolina, I mean Raleigh, North Carolina, it would be important for them to like join in. We can start this movement towards like dispelling that, just because you make a mistake, you cannot contribute to society. I think we have a couple of candidates running for president right now. One of them got a couple of crimes, and he's
No doubt.
the full president. He's going to be the full president, or possibly be the full
Right.
president. But at the same time, is very, very important for people to know that, as long, and this is the power of Christ for me, bro. And I'm gonna just spotlight me. I'm gonna look directly at the camera, because it's one of those things that really pushes me every day. Um, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've done, right? If you have breath in your body and you have a smidgen of character, because that's a lot of things that we don't talk about a lot, character,
Right.
right?
Right.
If you have character and you realize that the things that you've done were not meeting the mark, of your character, they were not meeting the mark of your character, because everybody falls short. Paul fell short. A couple of, if you want to go biblical, people fall short all the time, right? But one thing that you should remember, with the power of Christ, if you are able
Right.
to wake up the next day, do you have a chance to redeem yourself? You have a chance
Right.
to change that. But none of that don't mean nothing if you don't got character. So build your character first. Take your time, build your character, because you're not getting on my podcast or the Conviction Fiction podcast without character. You will
You
never
know,
be here.
that is uh that is the one thing that nobody else can define for you, and that's your character. And it should mean the world to you. One of the greatest things, what you were saying, if regardless of your situation, if you got breath and you start moving forward, and I've been out for 18 years, uh, and in that process, character helped open some doors that maybe education didn't, and some of the things that maybe I never could have seen myself even accomplishing. Not saying that I have the greatest character in the world. I just knew that there was a time that nobody else could define who Eric McDaniel was but Eric McDaniel. And I had to work on my character. That means a whole lot. And one of the things about it is it's not an event, it's a lifestyle. And so if I had to offer any advice to others, man, listen, get in, listen and get in the Bible. First and foremost, I'm a kingdom citizen. I believe the Lord will open doors, and He definitely has for me. Um, the greatest thing about my incarceration process was that I shared that it wasn't a suffering or injustice as much as it was a closer avenue for how I walk with God and myself. That was the thing I fell in love with, the redemption process, to know that my Savior paid the price so I could be able to move forward. And
Mhm.
moving forward in life, um, that was His will for me to move forward. we read about so many other heroes of faith in the Bible who have
Right.
overcome, but we even share in this podcast, we two definitions of God's goodness, testimonies of his goodness from throughout my life. And, I would say I would never want to willfully go to prison or put my family through some of the stuff that they had to endure. But everything that I've been through, nothing has been wasted. Nothing has been wasted. I have compassion for my brothers and still keep in contact with some. And if they need, through the outreach, we're able to bless those that are in need. Uh, but one of the greatest things is to have compassion for life, compassion for the redemption process, to know that regardless of what you've done or what you've been through, or no matter how bad it is, we have a Lord and Savior, listen here, who paid the price for it all for us to be able to move forward. And
Exactly.
that's a big part of why I do what I do. And that's the passion behind it. All of my programs that we do and we're doing are biblical based. Right now, we do Kingdom Men. Kingdom Men is an awesome awesome class because it helps people understand purpose. They understand that God has not only a purpose and a plan, but there are kingdom principles that have been set forth. Nobody really told us about God's design for marriage or God's design for man to understand the difference between going from being born a male and going through boyhood and childhood to manhood. And so we try to hit on a lot of those things to let people know throughout this process that just like if you had a Mercedes Benz, you had to take it back to the dealership. Our thing is we have to go back to the one who created us and function in line with those principles. And through functioning in those principles, look here, then we give God something to work with.
Yeah.
Not only, and it's His will for us to be able to shine. It's His will for us to be able to overcome. The greatest testimonies a lot of us read Psalms 23, but if we'd have read First Samuel and
Mm.
understood what David did, we probably wouldn't have paid no attention to
Right,
Psalms
right, right. If
23.
we had to pay attention before, if
Yeah,
we had to pay
yeah,
attention
but
before, we probably wouldn't
but
have even done that.
yeah,
But
and so this is not a saying that I'm on this podcast saying that I'm perfect, but it is saying that life is great, and the problems, and I know that I have all sufficiencies for all situations and all circumstances through my Lord and Savior. And so
hey,
it,
man,
it
bro.
allow it allows me, man, to enjoy life. The greatest things is not the money, it's not the possessions, it's peace and joy. And but I have a responsibility through receiving all that, that I want to see others experience it too. So that's
Oh,
why I do what I do. I want others to be able to feel this peace and this joy and understand what it means
all right.
to live. To live, man.
And
Living
that's
is
what I want you to do. That's what you're tasked to do. Like this podcast will be published probably within the next couple of minutes or hours. So you will have a copy of the link. I want you to get the word out there. Let them know that what we're doing and what we are trying to build is a nation of men with character. Even despite what the world has said, despite what courts have said, there are men of character, and we need to get the word out. And if we can spread that word and just create this movement, that I would love to make sure that you are a part of it. I've been looking for a co-host. I've been looking for one. So
mhm.
if we can do it together on a weekly basis, because sometimes I get on here and
That'd
I
be
just
fine.
rant.
I would
I
love
just get
to.
on here and rant. And I do interviews, and maybe you can come to this nice little studio that I built in my home. My wife is sometimes on me about being all this stuff in here, and I'm like, I don't know. I just have it. I bought it because I think like this is what's important for me, and she has been able to stand behind me when it came to like, because she'll understand. I don't know if you're I know my wife, she had no idea of like the stuff that I've been through and the challenges that I faced. And, over time we kind of grew into each other before we got married. But even now, I feel like, I'm in a position. See, that's the thing, understanding your position, right? If
Right.
you're not like ready with your character, if you're not ready with your voice to share a message, get it ready first. Get ready
Right.
first. And when you are ready and you are put in that position, I think you spoke a lot about opportunity today. Like when you see an opportunity and you have the means and the will and the power to go chase the opportunity, go do it. Go do it, because that's just a testament to who you are, and your character build in order to help other people. See, it's not about, I think with people on my show, it's not about us anymore. It's more about like others. That's my whole thing.
Right.
It's more about others. Like if I don't, here's the thing, advertisers, if you're out there, shout out to New Beginnings, shout out to the North Carolina groups that you spoke about. But I don't need a
Hmm.
dime. I wouldn't want a dime to do what I'm doing. Not to do what I'm doing, just to spread the
Right.
word. If you are at your lowest point, then if you get out of that, it's very important, according to my God, it's very important to share with your knowledge and your experience with others to let them know, like, hey, I know where you are, because they did it for me. We supported each other, bro. Come on, man. We
Right.
supported each other, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, like with this avenue or this platform, that's what the conviction fiction is about. Because like most people believe, like if you listen to the news or the rhetoric, they say that, once a criminal, always a criminal. Right? You're
Yeah.
gonna end up being back in the same spot. And I'm not saying some people do. I've seen them. I did 14 years straight. I did 14 years straight on mine. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I've seen people leave and come back. I
Right.
can't tell you,
Right.
bro. It was like debilitating. I'm like, I'm up here doing and striving and trying to do everything I can to get up out this mug. And
Right.
you got out and you back. Man, get out my
Right.
face, bro. Get out my face,
You get. You get. Look. If you don't do the work and you don't learn as even in sports, if you don't learn the plays, you're going back to the bench.
you're going back to
But
the bench, bro.
I like the way you said it because my wife too, when we first started out with the outreach, she was right in there, sometimes tired and maybe not even understanding fully, but the support I had, it meant a lot for her too, because I shared my purpose and my vision with her. And so,
Yeah,
man, he gave me more than what I was even
yeah.
looking for. So that plays a great part, but that also that invigorates us to continue to want more and desire more, having somebody to motivate you and on your team. And
Yeah, because
so,
that's what this podcast is about, boy. It is more about like a community of folks that, because like even though we and I said this in the beginning of the podcast, it's not more so that we are trying to overshadow any victims or anything like that. I want to have a forum with victims at some point. You know what I'm saying? Where we can
right,
just like, because we are, whether they believe it or not, or whether we believe it or not, we are entwined, pretty much.
right, right,
We're
right,
entwined forever. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So to have this outside of course, just saying, hey, look, man, let's just talk about this. You know what I'm saying? It's a movement. And that's what we
right,
do here on this podcast. And like what you just said a minute ago, like many individuals that support you, they're supporting you because they love you, even though they don't even understand what you've been through. They'll
right,
support you.
right,
And that's genuine love. Because they's like, no matter what you've been through, what you're going through right now, even some of the challenges psychologically or financially that you're going through, I'm going to support you. And so
right.
those are the people that should be, because those are the real heroes. Those are the
They
heroes,
really
bro.
are. Yeah,
They
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 really
are.
are.
They are, bro. So, hey, look, man, I ain't gonna hold you, man. I'm gonna stop the recording now. I want to thank you. You can stay on. We can chop it up because at some point we're gonna
Well,
have.
well, let me say that. Let me say this before you get off, brother. I just want to tell you thank you, and thank God for what you're doing to help, create a different narrative. Because everybody that's been incarcerated, you know, even though society may give labels and titles and things like that, we are human. We are people. We are someone's son, somebody's father. Um, and the true measure of a man is not just the person standing before you. When we really understand the journey, and to be able to learn and to pick up the tools in the journey, that's what defines the man. And so, in spite of what happens in the past, every day that we wake up, I like to say, where you said it, we breathe air and have an opportunity. God gives us an eraser. And you don't necessarily erase the past, but you can create a new narrative. And so I just want to tell you, thank you for creating a new narrative. May this will open eyes not only to those that have been incarcerated or are incarcerated, but especially for those who have family members. They'll be able to get a greater understanding. I'm a pusher in life, so I like to push people forward. Look here,
Okay.
everybody's pregnant with possibilities. And usually I say when they
Well,
make it to me, I'm the one to try to push them out. And
all
so,
right,
not
man.
to my own.
All right, exactly. And so that's what I appreciate you coming on, bro, because like, you were one of the first people I wanted to reach out to. So I thank you guys. I want you guys to give it up for my guy, Eric McDaniel, man. This is the guy that I've known. I appreciate your a little bit more. I'm just gonna go ahead and close the show, okay? Hey, check
All
out
right, all right.
Fiction here today. And
No
whenever you
doubt.
listen to your favorite podcast, guys, I want you to understand that the conviction fiction is not about um trying to rewrite history or not. We're just changing the narrative. These are people, whether black, white, their gender, whatever their how they identify themselves, it doesn't matter. Like what we're trying to do is to make sure that the American people or worldwide that you understand that people do make mistakes and they can come back and be viable and productive members in the community, whether it be entrepreneurs, activists, social workers, or just the guy next door that you can sit and have a talk with, right? Because we've been through some things and we're trying to share that with you guys to let you know that despite it all, we are moving forward and trying to make sure that we do what God wants us to do, and that's to fulfill our purpose. Now, I might get a little bit crazy and stuff on the show and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, just understand that we are fulfilling a higher purpose, and we encourage you guys to, get the word out. Check us out on all of your favorite podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. If you're a Spotify person, just be sure to check it out and join the Conviction Fiction. I want to thank you again. I am your host. My name is Antoine Rivers, and I was incarcerated, but incarceration does not define me. Thank you for joining. I'll see you next week. And I have to go back and edit a little bit. Play intro. This
Yeah,
the outro. This the outro. Yeah, it's the outro.